Okay, for those of you on the call, please be sure to mute your devices while not speaking. I'm going to call to order the NECAT board meeting of January the 26th, 2021. And out of an abundance of caution and pursuant to recommendations from federal, state, and local health agencies regarding avoiding group gatherings due to the COVID-19 coronavirus, this meeting is a teleconference meeting. Advanced public comments have been possible through email and will be read or played at the time of the relevant agenda item. I will now take a roll call of board members in attendance. When I say your name, please say present or here. Shawna Brandmeier.
Present.
Shayla Paz.
Present.
Lindsay Ganson.
Present.
Brian Rossman.
Present.
Dana Schroring.
Present.
Willie Sims Jr., big fella.
Present.
Joe Woolley.
Present.
Okay, also in attendance, we have Rachel Kenyon and Cameron McCaslin. The board must now vote on the record that the COVID-19 pandemic requires us to hold a telephonic meeting as permitted under the governor's executive order number 16. Do I have a motion to hold an electronic meeting?
So moved.
Seconded.
Second.
All those in favor of holding electronic meetings, please say yay.
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 Okay.
Opposed? Okay. Now, do I also have a motion to suspend the rules in order to hold the electronic meeting?
So moved.
So moved.
Seconded? Okay. All those in favor of suspending the rules in order to hold an electronic meeting, please say yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Okay, all right. So now we are officially on board. And here's Chris. Okay, let me just have him join. So in the email, since we did not have a December meeting, there should be minutes from the November meeting as well as financials from both November and December. I would ask everyone first to take a look at the minutes. If you haven't had a chance to watch the link, if you weren't present, or just please go through and take a look and see if you have any questions, concerns, or any comments as it relates to the meeting from November. And when you've all had a chance to review, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
A motion to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say yay.
Yay.
Opposed?
Yeah.
Okay, meeting is minutes from November have been put into record. Now, again, as mentioned, there's two different financial documents as well as the year-to-date document that Rachel has provided. Before we get into this, Rachel, do you have anything you want to comment about it? I know there's some additions we had. We did get the Metro Cares money that got added directly into Ascend. Anything else?
No, so there's just that little bit of extra. That was nice to have that funds coming in. Just a note on the catching up the Comcast, our lack of being able to get mail has been a little bit of a hassle. And I take full responsibility. I let that Comcast drift off my radar because I didn't ever have any mail from them. But so you'll see in some of them in the months following, you'll see a Comcast hit. It's multiple months. And it doesn't change anything for our annual budget. It was just a catch up. And then I talked with Tyler, Aisha, and Shayla online that maybe we'll just get that on auto. We've never ever had Comcast on an auto pay because people tend to not trust Comcast's billing cycle. But literally that bill has never changed a penny since I've been working with you all. So we're going to look at just auto paying it so that that's never a problem. So.
And I do believe that contract was updated, right, Cam? Didn't we have a conversation a couple months ago, or at least there was a conversation?
The idea, whenever we were looking at trying to bring some of our bills down, they basically told us with the old plan that we had, it was the cheapest. If we were to change contracts, it would be maybe a little bit less for a year, but then it would go up an exorbitant amount a year down the road. So we stuck with what we had, and so it shouldn't change at all. We're locked in at that price.
I think the other thing to mention is that since the last meeting, we've also suspended our RJ Young copier, right?
Yep.
Correct.
So that
it's removed from the building at this point.
Oh, they came and take it away?
That's in my report, but just to let everyone know, it's
okay.
It's gone. So we may get one final bill to close it all out, but I think it should all be taken care of at this
Okay.
point.
Kudos to Shayla, who pushed back on them to make sure that they tried to get us to have to buy out the contract and stuff. And she was smart enough to push back a little bit, and it just took a little.
Smart enough to reply all, which was great.
Yeah. So I think, and the other thing I was going to say is, so the holding tank, we've still got, it looks like, 4 months in our holding tank. And then the PPP funding for round 2, I started that application, but our loan source people are revamping the application online, and the applications aren't being accepted yet anyway, so we're not late or anything. We just want to get a jump on it. But we are intending to do that unless at some point you all tell me not to. I'll go forward with completing the application for Tyler or Shayla's approval and initials when it's time.
Sounds good. Does anyone have any comments on both either the months of the financials for November, December, or the year to date? Comments, questions?
What is our forecast? What's our runway on that? Or are we going to cover that later?
It's really a 4-month runway right now, I think. And it does need to be covered in that. I feel like we need to make a plan for after that, but also I feel like there's some grant stuff that's getting.
4 months with existing, no additional funding, meaning no additional pred grant, no additional anything, and no PPP. With PPP, it would probably get us to like June or July, right?
PPP will buy us at least 2 more months, I would say, and then hopefully, we'll get Newswood back in the studio. But other than that, it's going to be relying on grants past summer.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to go into some more when we talk about the sponsorship deck as well as the pitch deck for Big Fellas Show, Joe, down the road. But that's the basic. We'll take any other questions, or when everyone's ready or feels comfortable, we can go not to motion to approve financials for November and December.
Tyler, you want that as one motion, or you want to take them each? How do you want that done?
Take them as each, please. So first, we have a motion to approve the financials for November.
I move. Oh, sorry, Shannon.
And Shayla, do you want to be the second?
Sure.
All those approve, say yay for November financials.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
Opposed? November, so moved. December, do we have a motion to approve those financials?
I move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the December financials into record, say yay.
Yay.
Opposed? All right. So a couple things as it relates to this, because this is my last meeting as a board member, rolling off basically on February 5th after 2 full 3-year terms. One of the things that happened when Trish left, we also had lost our treasurer at the time, who was Rita Mitchell. Trish's name was on our Ascend account. She had passed it over to me as the primary name person on the account. Obviously, with me rolling off, I'll need to assign that to somebody since I will no longer be on the board. This typically would probably be a treasurer, but I think Aisha is also off in February, to be determined whether or not she will continue on. Regardless, we'll need to determine who will be the new surrogate or whose name will be on the account, we can transition this over to, which would require me and whoever decides to be the delegate to have the name on the Ascend account go to one of the branches to do the actual changing of that, which is basically takes about 10 minutes. So I open that up because it should be something we vote on, since we don't have a treasurer currently and she's not on the call. I would suggest it would either be Shayla or some other officer, but does anyone have any suggestions or comments? Would someone like to volunteer to be the person who would be the name on the account?
I would say it makes sense for it to be Shayla, and that just to keep in mind that occasionally that might mean you have to come in to sign a check, an actual, I would say 2 or 3
Correct.
times a year, we actually sign a check for some reason or another.
We have the things that get signed for now currently are CAM's 401k once a quarter. And then whatever, we haven't done any production. There hasn't been much by the way of signing checks. I think maybe even the insurance, I believe, was done online. Right, Rachel? So.
And technically, we can do everything through online bill pay if we wanted to, but I think sometimes it's comfortable to know that there's a check there. Also, by the way, I think that you should be able to do your signer cards remotely now. I don't think they'll make.
I would hope so. Yeah, I haven't reached out because I want to make sure I had the right person who was going to be taking over for the name on the account. Shayla, are you fine with this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any opposition to this from the board? Finances board decision? No. Okay. The other thing I had.
Suddenly my shoulders feel heavier now.
You'll be fine. You're going to be just fine.
I love how everybody tight-lipped when it came to, does anybody else?
No one wants to put their name on that?
Anybody wants to join the club of the iron on my shoulders?
The insurance, the Highland document, and this is probably part of your report, Cam, but I'm not sure. Did you get an updated email link that's live to see what that is? I think that's the board liability insurance.
I have not received that. That was just to fill everybody in. We had a insurance document that was coming before Christmas. I didn't know what it was and didn't feel comfortable signing it until I had heard off from the board. At this point, we're just they've tried to send it to us a couple times, but before we got an answer. At this point, we just need to get a live document. I have to sign it because I'm the executive director at this point, and then I think that's all it covers is just the board insurance.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was just a double dip, but
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Shauna Lynn. You have a Feel Good Friday update for us?
So Feel Good Friday updates. Shayla and I are recording TPAC tomorrow. So we've got TPAC on deck, and then Dana on Friday, Urban Green Labs. Is that right for Friday? Yeah. So those are the next 2 we've got. We also had to reschedule one, of course, because of COVID, Corner to Corner. That one's also on deck. So I'm going to be reaching out to some of our, good news is I have a long list of other nonprofits that want to partner with us on this. So I'm going to start getting those scheduled. So I'll let everybody know as I update that document and the dates. But we're just going to keep rolling with ones. We've had people raise their hands, like Able Youth raise their hand. I want to reach out to them and get them scheduled, some new ones, some ones that we've partnered with before. I think it's really good. Legal Aid sent out an email on theirs and promoted it on social media. So, and that was a good discussion as well. So we're just keep rolling with it. I know we've had some talks of other partnerships for Feel Good Fridays and promoting it, kind of do a rebrand. Those things are in the works. So as we kind of finalize those things, I think we'll bring those back to the board. But just know some of those things are in the works. And of course, if anybody reaches out to you, I keep the Google Docs of the drive updated. Or if you don't have access, just shoot me an email or a text and I'll send it back to you. But, keep reaching out to people. We'll just keep scheduling. I think everybody enjoys it. So.
And
Did
if
you
I
see
could,
I'm sorry, Cam.
oh, go ahead.
Did you see the email from the people Conexión Americas that they wanted to participate?
I'll go back and look.
Yeah,
so we'll
it was
those,
like
we'll
a
get them
month ago.
scheduled.
It was like at the beginning of the year, so that'll be a
Okay,
good one.
well, we'll get them scheduled. I'll add that to my list. Thanks
I
for
would
the
say,
update. Yeah.
if I could chime in here, and I believe I've shared this with a couple of people already, but because we are replacing a Metro employee right now, and just the way our workflow has worked throughout quarantine has worked pretty well. But we're going to be training a new person here in the coming weeks, and just to make life a little bit easier on everybody's end, we just want to make sure that we're working ahead and we're not getting things the same week. Because if I'm getting it on Wednesday to turn around to give to them on Thursday to air on Friday, it doesn't give us a whole lot of wiggle room in case something gets messy. So if we could just try to always be working at least a week ahead, that is very helpful for me and in turn for the Metro staff, I believe, on their end as well.
I will say TPAC tomorrow is for the 29th. So after we get it recorded, I'll send it to you tomorrow.
And I've already made plans to, as soon as you've got it, I'm going to be right on it to get that one turned around. We're still okay right now. Tim's still helping out with all of getting everything where it needs to go. But I just know in the next couple of weeks, it's going to be it may be a little bit slower roll as we just make all the changes that are going to be being made. Just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, and then
recording.
when Dana,
Yeah, I'm recording
Go ahead.
Urban Green Labs Friday afternoon, so I'll kick it to you Friday afternoon.
Perfection.
yeah, and then that gets us to February 12th, and I'll reach back out to Corner. We'll get in touch with Connexion. So we're looking at mid to end February already for scheduling, and once we reach out to them, we can go ahead and give them dates for recording. So I like staying ahead of it as well. It also changes up. If anybody wants to be on some of these for recording, I think it's great to have a variety of interviewers for these. So if you're ever interested, just let me know and I can send out dates of, like I do, of like who's available on, for these times and that kind of thing. But we'd love to have anybody that wants to participate, or if there are any nonprofits that you're particularly close to and you want to highlight, let's get them scheduled. So.
I also will chime in there and say I think it makes a whole lot of sense if we're looking at anything that is being celebrated, holidays, or like for Black History Month, we should be focusing there. I think for Pride Month, we should be focusing there, like making sure that we're reaching out to people that make sense that we can spotlight during a time where there's already people paying attention, in the hopes that it'll help fundraise and things like that.
Yeah, good point.
Cam, did you want to roll into your report then, since you already started on this?
Happy to do that. Like I said before, RJ Gelling, the copy machine was removed from the premises. We did get our new Predators grant filled out. We asked for $8,000 to continue with our regular sports camp, as well as to add on to the digital sports camp. I don't know if everyone got a chance to see the video that we did with the Predators right at the end of last year, where we had about a dozen kids that were like high school kids come on and talk to Pete Weber and Willie Donick. It was a great setup, but I feel like we could do more of that kind of thing in addition to whenever we can get back together and do our regular our camp there. I've got a meeting set up tentatively with Amy from Able Youth to talk about how we can continue on to help those kids get their own separate camp, which we've done in the summer in the past. We're just trying to figure out the best way to approach that with things kind of still being up in the air. We don't know when we're going to be back together. We also completed our Predators grant report from last year, just reporting on everything that we did for the year to make good on that money. So that's done and filled out. I also had my first job shadow meeting Friday, January 22nd with McGavick. It went really well. Basically, I just talked to the high school students for an hour. We had a Q&A session, talked about different jobs to interview, like that they could interview for, and how to kind of approach that, what we do at NECAT, and we offered all of them the chance to come back when we are back together to take our classes courtesy of Ascend, both as our regular nighttime courses and possibly even putting together like a special weekend program for just those high school kids, just to play catch up for anyone that wants to get involved, that where they're not going to get to have their regular school field trip like we've done for the past few years. I know we've had some really great outbreak meetings with different board members to talk about rebranding, to talk about raising money, to putting shows together and things like that. I know there was some, Shayla sent me an email, I think just this morning, that had some ideas for the rebranding and new logos and things like that, that I would love everyone to take a look at, because I think it's important right now as we do a lot of new things. It's good to put some fresh paint on it. I think that's a way that we can help put eyeballs back on the place, which in turn may help us raise money to keep the thing afloat. So, something I think we should focus on there. We've already talked about the PPP loan. Rachel's working on that right now. We've talked about Feel Good Fridays and how that continues to work really well. One of the great things that we've added in the last few months that we haven't talked a lot about since we instituted it was we've started doing camera rentals, which is allowing our current members to go down, meet our Metro staff, pick up a camera and keep it for a week and shoot things at home. That's already turned into some content for us. They're paying the same fee that they used to pay of $25 to check it out. And where they used to keep it for 48 hours, now they're keeping it for the entire week, which just makes it safer for everybody involved as far as the pickup time and the drop off time and things like that. We already talked about the board insurance, really just waiting on that last one to come in. I'll sign that and we're good to go. And speaking of our high school job shadows, we have another one set up for next week. I'm actually going to do 2 days with Hillsborough, talking to 3 separate high school classes for them on February 2nd and the 4th. And then we're also speaking, we haven't set a date yet, but Johnson Alternative Learning Center, which is some of the troubled kids that have worked through Metro. Big Fellow put us onto this, doing our same program with them, where basically we just go in and talk about jobs in the entertainment industry and how, you know, they can start working as high school students towards that. I think that's a really good program. I think in the past we've always kind of tended to lean towards some of the schools that already had programs set up for the entertainment industry, as far as like have AV classes and things like that. This is a different opportunity for kids that may have not had that shot in the past. So I'm really excited about talking to them and kind of seeing where they're at and what we can do to help them move along. Outside of that, we're still looking for, you know, one more school. I've had some conversations with Big Picture High School, but we haven't set a date. That would fulfill our 4 schools that we're required to take care of under the grant that Ascend gave us. And from there, you know, we can start looking at what the new program looks like as we go into this next year, you know, because even right now with us not knowing when we're going to be in the studio, we don't know even then when Metro Schools is going to allow students to actually have field trips outside of campus. So it's something that we really do have to think about as far as our programming. The thing that we're doing right now works as far as talking to, you know, kids at these schools. I think it was good for them. I feel like their teacher would report the same. You know, we had a really good conversation. The kids had some good questions, and you know, it's like it's a good setup all around. I just want to make sure that we're always doing the best we can to, you know, to put that kind of stuff out there. Especially now we're going to be moving into We Foster Film, which is a, you know, program we've been talking about forever. It's going to be along those same lines where we're going to have, you know, people come in that are specific to a certain type of job. We're going to have a conversation with them and open it up to questioning, you know, from our members. I think that's going to be a really good look for us. And I think it's going to help launch NECAT into a different way where we're not going to be just a TV studio where people come to make their local show. I think we can do so much more. And this is the time to do it right now, whenever we're, you know, being forced to just kind of to make things work. And the way media is changing too, you know, people using their telephones to record things and uploading things online, getting into podcasting. I think all of that is stuff that we could pivot to pretty easily, that doesn't cost a lot in the upstart, and helps people get their voices out there in a big way. So if anyone has any questions for me, I'm open to it, but that's pretty much all I have to report for this month.
Cam, as mentioned, we should probably get something over to Tiffany and the folks at Ascend, recapping what you've done, what you have on the schedule about that, even though we don't have all the final one locked in. And just to also introduce Shayla as the new chair rolling in next month.
To add on to that, I think that's a great idea. On top of that, the one thing that we did push back this month, we talked about having a member meeting in January. I've pushed that to February because of 2 reasons. I wanted to make a point that we could introduce our new board members and their positions on, you know, the night that we do that, as well as the new staff member that we are going to be hiring on the Metro side of it. I think it's important for our members to see that face, where Tim and Adam and Cynthia before had always been really important to all of our members that come in because they troubleshoot those things. I feel like it's a good first step forward if this new person is able to kind of see all the faces that make NECAT, to see it more as a human place and not just a place where they're coming to mash buttons or, you know, stick videotapes onto the air. So really, from what I understand, and John, you could correct me if I'm wrong here, but the plan is to have that hire done probably the first week of February sometime. So I'm thinking somewhere after the first week of February, into mid-February, I would like to put that on the books and just find a date that works for as many board members as we can, just to show up, say hello. I know in the past when we've done this, it's been really well. Joe had a really great story right at whenever I first came on and we did that first meeting. He said that, and Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but he had told me that helped him understand a lot of what NECAT was for and about. And I think it's important for all of the board members who can be there to come and listen to the people's stories and also hear them right now, because our members want to be back more than just about anyone. And, you know, it's like we need to be listening to what they need and what they want and how we can give it to them with the window of time that we have left before, you know, all of this is shaky right now. I want to make sure that we convey that to them, because they can also help us put those things together and put us in front of people that can help us. So just something to be thinking about. And really, if anyone has any specific dates in February that they're out, just let me know and we'll make sure not to do it on those dates.
Great. Any questions for Cam?
I got a question. Cam, you need another school. I talked to Brittany Evanson over at Pearlcom, and
Yeah.
she said give her a call.
I will definitely do that. Pearlcom's been one of the ones we've used in the past. I've had a little trouble getting in touch with them the last few months, but I will reach out to them again.
She said she was trying to get in touch with you, so I think it's just a communication.
right on.
thing. Perfect.
And I owe you a phone call, big fella.
Oh man, whatever, man. We'll do that.
Any other questions for Cam? No, thank you, Cam. I don't know, John or Chris, do you want to give a studio report? Or not?
John, you want to do that or you want me to do it?
Yeah, I'll be happy to go here. So like Cameron mentioned, we are currently in the process of replacing a employee. Tim is moving on to a job full-time at Metro Nashville Network. Cameron and I and Chris and Adam from Peg Studio are involved in the interviews. We are probably about a quarter of the way done. We went through a full day. We interviewed about 4 people on Friday. And I think we had a couple of really good candidates. I think things are looking good to replace Tim with a really good candidate. I think that we're going to be seeing some good candidates later today and for the rest of this week. Nashville State currently still in phase 2 of their phase 4 plan. They have no immediate plans to change that, so they are currently in a holding pattern in phase 2, which means that we are still sort of up in the air as far as when we can open back up. I wish I had a more definitive response or a definitive answer as to when we can open up. I think that's been the $1 million question is when are we going to open the studio back up, and we just don't have an answer, unfortunately. I think that in the beginning, or earlier last year, they had told us that it would be spring 2021, and so I think that's sort of what I've been continuing to go with in my head, spring. But obviously, spring is a long time, so it could be late spring. We're still kind of weighing that. We continue to check out equipment. Cameron had mentioned how we are now checking out equipment for full weeks instead of 48 hours, which I think has been beneficial for a lot of people. And people continue to check out equipment and use equipment. So I think that's good. We're getting people the ability to shoot video and get their stuff continually on the air. People are submitting shows. We are continually putting shows on the air, which has been, I think, very, very good for a lot of producers to get their ability to get their shows on the air and broadcast in a timely manner. Tim and Adam have done an amazing job in doing that. They're obviously down an employee with Cynthia being gone, but they're continuing to step up and do what needs to get done on their end, which has been fantastic. They've been doing a fantastic job. So I think that's it from my report.
Thanks, John. I'm sorry to hear you're not feeling well. Chris, I want to bring this up now since we're talking about studio, because it's rearing its head again. Discussion, well, 2 things. First, board members, as of next month, it looks like we're probably going to be down 4 if Aisha doesn't re-up. Myself, Joe Woolley is off next month, and Carolyn's been off since May. I've had some communication back and forth with John Lassiter and at the mayor's office. I don't know if any movement, if you've seen any movement on your end as far as like potential new board members.
No, so we did talk about that, and they are exploring how they want to do it, who they want to bring in. I did explain to them that if we were if it were up to the collective, to the board, that we would prefer to have somebody with experience writing grants that could assist. But they just asked if I had any idea or any people to send to them, and I told them that I did not, but I did make sure that I pointed out what we're looking for, what we need to help with, and what I guess professional skills we already have on the board. So they're supposed to be looking for somebody and see how they want to proceed. But they do know that 4 people are rolling off, and so they are aware.
I know Aisha did say that she would like to continue on if they wanted to, so I'm not sure. So it's, there is that.
Okay.
Okay. Also, I got an email from someone named Breck Walker, who's working with John Lasseter, having some ideas about NECAT. Are you familiar with this gentleman?
I have not met with him yet. I did get an email from him this morning, and we have a phone call scheduled for Thursday, I believe,
Okay.
in which Keith Durbin will be on as well. Yeah, and they just the mayor's office is taking a high look at everything, and so they're just looking to see how they want to explore. They're bringing in Brett Walker to see what kind of ideas he has, where we might start steering the board to if they so choose to. It's all premature right now. I don't know exactly what Brett Walker's got to say or what he wants to discuss. Like I said, I just got an email from him this morning asking for a meeting. So.
Yeah, I know that Shayla and Cam both got one as well. So I just wanted to see if you had any awareness of his background or what he was doing. So.
Yeah, no background. I know his name is Brett Walker. That's the extent of what I know at this point.
The other thing that's also kind of raising its hand again is like reopening the discussion of potential new locations. I know Big Fella sent an email. I got reached out. I got an email from Jill Palm from the Arts and Business Council about their relocation. Jeff Syracuse has reached out about with the Donaldson Library finally going to getting a groundbreaking about that. So I know we have time, but with everything going on with the studio closures and us being, at the will of Nashville State and everything, it's probably a good time to, bring this up for the months to come of potential new locations. I don't know if you've had any, you might want to fill in the rest of the board since you might not have been around when we started bringing this up a couple of years ago. But currently, I believe our lease with Nashville State is through 2025. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. 2025, January 2025.
So we have time, and I know that when talking with Big Fella and everybody, I do think that I can't imagine Metro not wanting to move a location to a property that they don't already own. I mean, that was the one thing I mentioned to Jill at the Arts and Business Council is like, I think unless the overhead was like $1, like at Peg Studios, I can't imagine Metro wanting to do anything that wasn't in a property that they already have control over. But with that, I have to think there's some potentials. I know we talked about Madison back in the day, and there's obviously Donaldson, but maybe there's, it's probably the time to start exploring other potential locations in the months to come. And I'll open that up to the board for discussion. So I know there were some questions from Big Fella specifically and anyone else, but.
Yeah, I kind of got all my questions answered. I'm wondering, Chris, man, can you get a list of Metro buildings? Because I know potentially if we move into a Metro building, it'll be easy, but if we have like a list of available or potentially available Metro locations, that might be cool to look through.
Yeah, I can definitely reach out to General Service and see what kind of facilities are available. Like most of you already know, we've been pulling the CATV special fund money every year. Comcast and other cable providers give money to support PEG. We used to always buy equipment with this money, and the last 5 years maybe we've been kind of socking it away, just putting it out and saying hey, we're still taking care of what we need at the studio and for Metro National Network. We're still getting what equipment we need, but we've been very cautious about using that money, and we have been saving, stocking it away as much as we can to go towards a studio. Right now, we're sitting just shy of $1 million in that fund. We, this last CATV, we did quite a bit of spending. I think with both groups, we ended up spending probably about 180,000 of the 230 something thousand. And then, we always put it back into the fund. So that's why we're just shy of $1 million. This next CATV, we're scheduled not to take any of that money for equipment. We're going to put it solely towards the building. So that should put us close to just under 1.2 million. But yeah, the thoughts, the last thing that we discussed, way back when, and this was back when Trish was still here, as we were focusing on the Donaldson Library. Currently, well, at the time, they're building a new Donaldson Library. That project has been held or been put to a stop, and then it's been brought back. So I honestly don't know where the Donaldson Library is at this point. However, the thought was we would go into their old building. One of the things that we would have to do is basically construct a studio on the back side of that property. And so that would probably deplete the majority of our funds. So we're just, the longer we can push off, the more money we can save. But Tyler's exactly right. Here within the next 2 years, we need to definitely start figuring out where we're going to go, because it's not going to go up overnight. And General Service is aware of this. Right now, they're doing a change in their administration. Nancy Whittemore, who's been there for, 30 years, she just retired. So they were bringing in a new General Service director. But I'll get with Keith Durbin and have him speak with the new General Service director once they're in place. And we can check with the property people and find out what Metro properties are available. I would assume that the Madison is still available. And we were very close to pulling the trigger on that before.
Oh, you're on mute, Chris.
Sorry about that. Yeah, we're very close to the Madison before Councilman Syracuse stepped in and said that he would prefer going to his district, which kind of, pulled the rug out from under us, which is fine. We ended up signing the lease with Nashville State to extend it another 5 years. And like Tyler said, 2025 is in the original agreement. That's the last date we can push it off. We could probably go back and extend with Nashville State, but that would be a conversation that would need to take place down the road. So,
Chris,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tyler and I are the only board members on this meeting that were there for those meetings. Another one of our big concerns was, what is Metro's vision for building this studio? NECAT's vision for being there? What if NECAT went away? I mean, we were having these conversations and these issues that we're still facing today back then. And one of our big things was we didn't feel as NECAT, it was a safe investment to do that if we didn't have a timeline or a plan for survival clear. Why are we going to invest money in a new studio? That's not a good use of any funds, but especially taxpayer funds.
This is not taxpayer.
Well, and I think, so that I'm trying to give background.
Okay.
It comes from Metro, so it'll be perceived as that, and we could argue about the true numbers of, how it is. But you're right that it's not taxpayer funds, so to speak. But who is funding that? It's not NECAT per se, but we have an investment in it. Metro may move ahead with this on their own. Really, it's not this board's decision where the studio goes in the end. Can you talk about those type of conversations and like the history of, why it was postponed and why we did what we did? Because there were other factors that played into that as well.
So, yeah, I'll see if I can answer your question. So first, the fund and the collective, it is money paid from Comcast, United Communications, and AT&T. FCC suggests, I guess they don't mandate it, but they suggest that these big cable companies help fund PEG, which is Public Education Government Access Television. It's strongly, the FCC, like I said, they don't mandate it, but they do suggest, and so they kind of do say you have to do it. In the franchise agreement with Comcast, they agreed to pay us $200,000 to support PEG. They pay other, more, I think it's 5% to the general fund of Nashville, which is, it's based off subscribers and all that. But for the PEG studio or the PEG channels individually, they get $200,000 every year. Then the way they figure out the amount that the two smaller entities, sorry, hang on a second. There's two smaller entities. So AT&T and Uverse get a prorated portion based on their subscribers. So all that money that comes in, it's generally it used to be about $230,000. Now it's a little closer to 2018, $218,000. But that money is earmarked for PEG channels only, and it's got to be a capital product, a capital purchase. So you can't pay for NECAT's operation cost, but we can pay for equipment. We can pay for building. So that in itself is not they can't take it. The general fund can't take it. Nashville can't come in and say, Metro can't come in and say, we're going to take this money and just put it in our pot. This money is designated for PEG studio or for PEG channels support only. So that's the money that we have over $1 million, almost $1 million in. So that it can only be spent. I can't hear you if you're talking, Joe.
We don't control those funds as NECAT board members, right?
NECAT does not.
To the other.
We can only make suggestions.
Correct.
To
it's the other board that votes on that, correct?
So there's also the cable television, the CATV special committee. Anytime we're going to allocate that money, I go in front of this board and I basically I tell them, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we do a presentation. This is what we want to buy. This is how much it's going to cost. This is what it's going to do. So that happens once a year. Coming up pretty soon, I believe 2023, the current franchise agreement is over. And so we're already starting to have these discussions with Comcast about renewing their franchise agreement with the city. Yeah, I kind of just lost my train of thought there. Anyways, we're talking with Comcast about re-upping that. In 2023, they'll come back in and they'll decide, okay, well, maybe we only want to support PEG with X amount of dollars. So that's kind of why we've been hanging on to what we've got, trying to build this fund, because this next franchise agreement is going to be, it's going to be it's going to be a lot different than what we're looking at right now. And the CATV board actually helps us, I guess, craft that franchise agreement with Comcast and the other cable entities. And yes, so they do have oversight. So the way we generally used to do this was the PEG studio NECAT would decide, hey, we want to spend this money on, these kind of things. And then Metro Nashville would say, we need this kind of stuff. And we would basically go in and present to the board, these are the things that we want to buy. This is why we want to buy it. And then they would decide how much we could spend on it and whether they supported it. So does that help?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great understanding of the system and where we were. And then the discussion with us was, we were looking at Madison. Metro was interested in moving the studio to Madison. We had an executive director that was not interested in Madison and had done some of the work to get it moved to Donaldson, and that council member to make that claim that he wanted it. So there was some politicking involved as well. But really the thing that the board was looking at is, well, one, it's ultimately not our decision to say, yes, no, build a studio.
Correct.
We have an executive director that's not really keen on Metro's top choice for it, but we were more concerned on, is this the right move right now for NECAT? I think then, Tyler, you speak for yourself, but I kind of felt the board was like, we have so many other decisions to make. Building a new studio is, we're putting a cart way before a horse on these issues. And I still feel like that.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And with the Metro, sorry, Joe, go ahead. So with the Metro side, sorry, you go.
Right now, with where NECAT is, like, that all needs to be factored in. And in the end, this board doesn't have real control over a studio getting built or not. All we can do is focus on NECAT and the operations that would be in a studio.
I agree with Joe on that. I mean, it definitely is a cart before the horse situation, but I also think that having a plan in place about where we're going to go does help us find funders, because people are interested in things that are new. They're interested in being on the ground floor of something brand new. I've got a lot of ideas about what I think, should go into place into NECAT both as a nonprofit and as into an actual studio space. I think where we're at right now, Nashville State, it's a great state-of-the-art facility. We're able to use it to the best of our abilities. But if I were to go in right now and say, hey, we're going to build something brand new, there are things that I would ask for. Like, we don't really have a dressing room situation, which is odd whenever you have a TV studio that doesn't have a separate dressing room. I think having a build space where people that aren't necessarily interested in being a TV personality can come in and work on a crew side and get that kind of job training. I think even having like a whole separate second smaller studio space, that way we could have two sets of people running in the studio at the same time. Maybe the people that do a talk show, all it is a like a news desk with a background with a TV behind it. That way they can do podcasts in there, they can do that kind of stuff. All that stuff is obviously things that would happen in breakout meetings. And again, like I will say, I agree with Joe completely. We have to get NECAT as a whole in a better place financially. That way we know that it's going to be here for the future before we can totally move everything over there. But to Chris's point, that money is there. We can only use it for a certain kind of thing. And the PEG studio is going to go forward, whether NECAT as a nonprofit does or not. PEG's not going away. So if this board were to dissolve and turn into something else, public access is still going to be in Nashville. And I think that we can definitely help guide what is best for people to use. I know more than anything else, no matter where we put it, we kind of have to have a place that has more foot traffic, in the sense that we need to be working with other, spots like the library or other nonprofits to get them to come in and make their own content, where we have creators coming in that, again, may not necessarily be interested in the way we've been doing things for the past, 8 or 10 years or the 40 years before that. But what is the vision of media look like in the future of Nashville? That's what we've got to be working towards. We need makerspace for not only us to make our, the TV shows we've been making, but to have all different kinds of people, both as a learning space, for adult learners, for a makerspace for all different kinds of people, and just having a space that is more usable than just the one thing that we've been doing for so long. We've done it well, but we've been struggling to keep it, afloat. I think the way to do that is to expand and to really look at some other places that like, I mean, even if it means, bringing other nonprofits in and kind of saying like, what do you guys need to make your kind of media, and figure out a way to share that kind of space. I think that's going to be the best move forward personally.
Yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Chris.
Now, I was just going to say, so the Metro side, I think this is what Joe was actually looking for. What the Metro side was, we were looking at, we're in a building right now that we're throwing money at, that it's, starting to, I guess, deteriorate. We paid, tens of thousands of dollars fixing the roof. In fact, we still fix the roof. The HVAC system was shot. We fixed that. Yeah, the plumbing, don't even get me started on the plumbing. I mean, we were told 10 grand just they were wanting us to rip out the floors and redo the plumbing. So we were looking at that. We were looking at that lease that we were currently in. The plan was, hey, let's go ahead and be proactive, and let's get out of the space that we're in now on Nashville State. We were looking for a place that was more accessible on a bus line. We were looking at places that you could get in and out of equally or easily. All the stuff that Cameron just mentioned, we had gone as far as we had architects come in and were redesigning our space. We were going to have a huge studio that was going to be soundproofed, which was not an easy or not a cheap thing, especially out there. We had a space, we had a separate studio that we were going to construct that was going to be geared for the hands-on training only. So you could have, in one room, you could have somebody training on live actual equipment. And then over here, you could have people actually doing their videos at the same time. So there were a lot of plans and a lot of detail went into this. At the time, granted, Joe, we weren't as bad off as we are now, but we were still in the black with NECAT. And so I agree, it's definitely changed a lot over the last, what was it, 3 or 4 years? It's probably longer than that. 3 or 4 years ago, whenever everything kind of changed. Right now, I'm not sure if they're wanting to build a new studio at this point. We're still saving the money because so back at that time, we were only sitting on like $600,000. $600,000 in the city of Nashville is not going to buy you very much. And so that's why we were targeting the area that we were targeting. It was a very large space that Metro already owned that we could get into. And Trish reached out to Councilman Syracuse. He's a big fan of PEG, the PEG studio. So he got involved and decided, hey, I'd rather it go here. Well, the hiccup there was, first of all, Metro did not own the new property that the library was going on. They had not started construction yet, and we were trying to find a place to get out before the lease ended.
Which I think was like only a year. We had it was like less than 12 months.
Exactly. It was very tight schedule. It was, and everything could have gotten done on time. But then we just stopped. Everything stopped. And we just said, all right, fine. What we're going to do is we're going to keep socking this money away and get it up, because, the farther into the future we go, the more expensive everything's going to get. And also what you have to look at is the closer into the Metro core that you get, the more money you're going to spend. So we knew for a fact that the city was not going to help us. It's going to be the PEG Studio Fund, or the PEG support fund is going to be the only way we're going to fund this thing. And now we said, all right, well, that didn't work. So we went back to Nashville State. We threw out the last clause in our agreement with them, said, hey, let's do this for 5 more years. They said, okay. They couldn't say no, but they agreed to it. So that's why we're in this last 5 years of this contract. So does that explain more, Joe? Is that kind of what you were looking for?
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think Cam's point really should, I hope the board hears this and pushes for it. I know I've talked to the mayor's office and Keith Durbin and the people that I can talk to, is when you're looking at it, I think it really needs to be, we need to step back and look at where we can invest these funds for a new studio, whoever it's going to serve, and spend those where it can have the most impact on the city. If that's the downtown library, if that's a new library and a new, in a neighborhood that brings stuff outside the core, all that should be factored in. And I just hope the people that make the decisions know all the pieces are talking to each other. So we just don't do something and then it doesn't have the best impact on the city. And it sounds like you guys are looking at that. And to Cam's point on technology, a new updated facility, whoever it's going to serve, if that's NECAT or just the general public, is going to look different than it did, heck, 3 years ago when we were looking at what that studio was going to look like.
Right.
I got two questions. I got two quick questions. One question, if NECAT had the money, could NECAT build their own thing, or are we underneath the PEG and Metro thing? Like Metro would have to be responsible, even if NECAT had the money?
That's a good question. I would have to check with legal on that. I couldn't answer that for you. I don't know the answer.
I mean, just NECAT exists as pretty much the nonprofit arm of what the studio facilities provide to the community. So it would be best served. And back to your point, Chris, I mean, the other thing about the new franchise agreement is that, if, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe most of these companies are going to try to negotiate in kind, which means your annual allotment be drastically reduced. So depending on what that new agreement turns into, you might not be seeing 200,000, you might be seeing $100,000 in the years to come. So
correct. And we're not sure what that looks like. But whenever I went through and looked at the examples they were speaking of, that the understanding with the FCC and all they were talking about with the in-kind, Metro doesn't participate in hardly any of that stuff. You know, it was talking about like, I don't even remember the stats, you know, polls, all sorts of weird stuff. But I'm like, okay, we don't do that. We don't do this. Some PEG studio or PEG municipalities have basically told Comcast that they have to build the studio. You know, we didn't do that. It's, you know, there's a lot of things that other people get in kind that Metro does not participate in. So it might, you know, it might help us be able to retain what we're getting. But yeah, they could actually come in and be like, no, you get in kind and that's our support. So, you know, they could say it's the cost of the channels. You know,
when is
that could be
when is that up for renegotiation? This year, you said?
2023, May of 2023 is when it ends. So we are already having preliminary talks with them, and that's all above my pay grade. I don't get sit in that.
Yeah.
I'm
In
happy
case
I don't have to.
that we being able, well, you guys being able to find a new location for NECAT before the contract is up with Nashville State, is there a penalty to breach the contract? And what are the terms of that contract?
Nashville State would love to have that building back because all we're paying them is $1 a year.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the way that worked is they lease us the land, so it's their land. Back in 1980 something, we built the building. So Metro constructed. So we own the building basically. They own the land, and then the way the contract works, we can leave at any time. They had to. I think there were 4 5-year terms, and we're on the very last one of those 4.
Okay.
And then once the terms are completed, so in 2025 they get the building. Which
also, I was just wondering. I know that the goal is to save money so we can possibly move to a new location. But in the meantime, I know we are in this for a while. We won't be able to get rid of COVID at least until the fall. Is there any space that we can get pro bono or something for our members to continue to have an access to a location to shoot or something?
Not that I know of. Not, I mean, like I said, I can call and, speak to general services, but no, I don't know if there's any place that we would be able to access. I mean, you still have the same issues. So like the mayor right now doesn't want more than 8 people in a room. So I don't think we could do that.
Chris, the money that is set aside there, is that just sitting in like a war chest or is it like gaining interest in a account somewhere?
I'm assuming it's just sitting there. I don't think they've got it in a money market account.
Any other questions for Chris or anything about the studio in general? Studio report for John? Thank you, Chris. Thank you, John.
Mm-hmm.
Moving over to board topics, want to give an update. We had several meetings since the November meeting when we proposed the sponsorship deck that Dana helped put together. Big fella, you got us in contact with the folks from Nashville TN and 77 Ventures. Do you want to talk about that discussion with them as far as the pitch for your show?
Okay, I'll start with Nashville TN, I guess. We I guess it was the call in November, the board call, and Cameron mentioned we need content for the station. He was like, it's cool that we're trying to get like more visibility, but we need stuff on it to look at when people go to it. And he mentioned needing he would like an exercise show and a cooking show. And just so happened, I've had a cooking show for a long time, but I haven't done it in a while, not just start shooting them. So I've been shooting these cooking shows, and we were about to go talk to Kroger about potentially being a partner with us on the cooking show. And in a conversation with Cam, he was like, man, we need Amazon. And I was like, you know what? We do need Amazon. I'm not gonna argue with nobody say we need Amazon in 2021. That's true. And I was like, well, you think anybody on the board has a contact with Amazon? He's like, I'm not sure. And immediately I thought of the person at the mayor's office who asked me to be on the board. And I'm like, hey, he got me in it. He can help get me out of it, you know? So I called him and mentioned that the board was interested in doing the cooking show and reaching out to Amazon. And I'm like, I know the mayor's office got to have the best Amazon contact in the city. They just have to. And he asked how much do we need? And I was like, man, I'm not sure for the show. I was thinking about Trisha's show. And I was like, maybe 50, 75,000 something for a show, but we need more money for the station overall. Maybe we could do some kind of cool partnership with Amazon where they could help kind of be a part of fostering the next generation of content creators out of Nashville through NECAT, you know, and they could just participate in that. And, you know, that would be more money. You need like couple $100,000 to help, you know, hire another employee and make sure everything's taken care of. And he was like, man, that sounds great. He was like, I'll call him and set everything up and we could all get on the phone together. You just have the board put together a pitch deck for kind of what y'all want, and then we'll do that. So in that process, we had the subcommittee meeting, I guess that's what it's called, breakout meeting regarding the Amazon situation and cooking show. And Dana had mentioned me getting over. She was like, okay, that's cool. I showed everybody some of the new footage, the newer cooking show stuff. And Dana was like, hey, get me over your social media stuff to put in the deck so we can have numbers and all of that. And while I was looking at my social media and my YouTube, I'm like, I mean, it's nothing to call home about, you know, like I wouldn't call somebody and like, hey, I got 1,600 YouTube subscribers, you know, 5,000 Facebook likes or whatever. And I was like, I was with my partner and I was like, hey man, we need Nashville TN. And he was like, call them. So I called the Nashville TN dudes. We've been working with them for a long time. I wasn't even thinking. And I mentioned, so Nashville TN, the at Nashville TN on Instagram, and they got a bunch of other pages, but collectively they got like 500,000 subscribers, and they do a couple million impressions a week, and they're up there with the news channels and all the other, as far as weekly impressions, they're like up there with everybody. They're official. So, and they also did that, I believe, in Nashville for the tornado with the t-shirts, and raised $1 million and gave out a bunch of money for tornado relief, and we kind of helped with that. And I asked him, I said, hey, Brian, man, I'm on the board of NECAT, and we're talking about doing the cooking show and this Amazon pitch. And I was like, could we run some of the cooking show stuff on Nashville TN so we could use y'all social media numbers? And he was like, look, man, you can use it for whatever you want to. Yeah, we'll run some of it. We'll do whatever. Then he also mentioned that they can make t-shirts. He was like, man, we've been making t-shirts for nonprofits. And I know you say you're trying to raise money for the station. So think about it. If you can come up with something compelling with the station, or maybe connect with another nonprofit, we could do t-shirts. He said, we did one for the Save the Venues or whatever. And he said, we did 70,000 in sales on that, and was able to get an organization $30-something thousand off of t-shirts. And I mentioned to him Feel Good Friday, and that we're working with a bunch of different nonprofits every week. And he was like, man, I love it. Let's do it. We'll do a t-shirt a week for these nonprofits, and we'll split it with NECAT, and NECAT can split that with the nonprofits. So they are ready to go on that. We had kind of a breakout session call on that, and I don't recall what we were supposed to get over to them, but I think that'd be pretty cool to get going right now, because they're moving anyway. They have to. They got an email list of like 70,000 people that they send out something to every week, and it would be promoting NECAT, Feel Good Friday, and all of that. And they're just with it, man. And they're also down for us to use all of their social media stuff, and all of the guys behind it are really an ad agency, a marketing company. And they're like, we could use all of their stuff for any of our pitches. And I asked them, I was like, man, will you think Nashville TN would y'all be cool with being kind of a sister station of NECAT, like the digital sister station on the internet, where we can have content? If we have content over here that works for you guys, or if we have personalities or something that we put like man on the street, can we send them people over to that content to Nashville TN and kind of work it like that? And he's all for it. He's all for all of that. So it's a big positive, and it's really just, I'm not necessarily sure what the next steps that we were supposed to send them over, but they're ready to get going on that. And I think it's a good thing. I think it was a good call, you know.
Well, they were supposed to get back to us on a proposal on design and the split of the money thing. And then we were gonna move on to the next step. But have you heard back from them since?
I sent them an email or something. I don't recall exactly what will you send me over what exactly it was, the last thing that, like the deliverables from either them or us, and I'll just follow back up with them.
I think there was two things, big fella. There was the call with Nashville TN, and also the 77 Adventures. Okay. And I believe Dana
she's talking about the 77 Adventures. Okay.
So I know. Go ahead, Dana.
Sorry, I was just going to say I sent that pitch deck to Brian and never heard back.
Okay, well, I'll reach back out to them and see what they need from us to get going on. And that was with Brian, it was really a Feel Good Friday thing that we were.
No, I sent him the Amazon pitch deck because he said that he had some thought. We had asked him if he had any thoughts. It up. Okay. He also needed to update the Nashville TN numbers. I wasn't sure which media company to brand it as, and just get his insight there. And
okay, so I'll follow up with him today, and we'll get that worked out. Then the second call was with guys from 77 Ventures, which is an ad agency. They're like a New York ad agency, and they just moved down here a couple years ago, like had an actual office in Nashville. And I mean, some of their clients are like NASCAR and ESPN and NBC, and I think we had a good call with them. they're interested in helping us kind of rebrand it. He said they do this kind of stuff for NBC and for ESPN, and they would love to be part of helping us make a cool public access station. And he's like, never really seen that before, and he think that'd be a cool thing. So, I mean, Tyler, I'm trying to find, do you have the could you send the 77 Venture stuff to the rest of the board members? I know it was just inside our little breakout session. I sent it to all those people, but I'm not sure.
Just the intro. I don't think I have anything specific from them.
Well, I just wanted to see kind of the company and what they do. And so he sent me an email. Let me see. Yesterday about getting them over the stuff that I was going to send over to Cam. I guess I sent to everybody so we can follow up with what they need to put together some kind of deck for us with the info. It would be cool. Let me see. Yeah, so basically said they're creating a deck, NECAT Nashville, 2021 branding, inspires and engages, anchor program. I'm gonna send them over all of the old stuff, I guess the website will have all the logos from everything else, and they're gonna put together something for us. They're gonna put something together so we can look at it. I just gotta send them over that. But I mean, what was your thoughts on it, Tyler?
No, I mean, they were great guys. They seemed engaged. Like I said before, I mean, the thing I worry about is that everything has a price tag. So it's as long as it's like, I'd love to hear what they have, to offer, but just not knowing what it could cost, and that's would be a board decision. If you guys want to invest in a company to, rebrand with logos and what have you, that's the board's call. Hopefully it could be a pro bono thing, or at least a very limited thing if you guys like what they suggest. But regardless, as Cam mentioned, I think the station, the logo, the website, all of it needs to be redone. The website doesn't really even work for mobile, which is a problem. More people access websites via mobile than their PC nowadays. So all this stuff, it needs to be addressed.
With Tim leaving, he is the one who has kind of been the person who touched up the website whenever we needed things. He was down the hall. We'd ask him to do it. He would go in and touch it because he was proficient. He's leaving, so at this point, I mean, starting in about 2 weeks, anything that needs to go on the website, we're going to be doing it ourselves. I know we have some experienced people on the board that we may be calling you to patch it in between, but we need something that's just a lot easier website-wise for people to access. I think adding a blog that we could just daily update and kind of say, this is what's going on in the studio would be good. There's a lot of ways, but it does need to change. And to Tyler's point, we have to have a mobile site. It just, so many people are working on phones these days.
Yeah.
Is the website on WordPress, Cam?
WordPress, yeah.
It is WordPress.
Yeah, there is a button in there somewhere that says optimized for mobile. It just need to be activated.
I believe we have to remake the site. It's an old version of WordPress. It's not able to just be converted. That's been the issue.
Yeah, the website I think is going on like 15 years old at this point. Like it didn't get updated the last time there was an update, and so it is ancient. And, I mean, so much of the way, it's like, not to disparage anything that came before, but it's just like everything looks like it came from 1995 at this point, and that's just not going to work in 2021. We've just got to move forward all the way around.
Yeah, I sent out that email this morning with the proposal for rebranding and website and all that. I don't know if you guys got a chance to look at it. And we got to wait until we get another proposal from 77 so we can decide on how to move forward. The proposal that was sent to me is for $5,000. It was a little higher, but I said, hey, look, we are nonprofit and, COVID and so she lowered the price to $5,000. So I don't know what 77 is going to propose, or if they're going to help us more than just rebranding, if they're going to help us also with the pitching to Amazon or not. So we just got to wait and see what is our next step on that.
I just feel like at this point, even $1 is too much. We have no money. I mean, we have less than no money. I think the way that we're going to have to go is find someone who is willing to, to touch it. I know Hands on Nashville has people that we could reach out to that work with nonprofits constantly to donate that kind of stuff in kind. It may not be as fast moving, it may not be as slick. And I do like every piece of work that I saw, Shayla, that they sent across. I thought it was beautiful stuff. I just know we can't afford it right now. There's just, if we're talking about, possibly having to shutter in 4 or 5 months, we can't spend $5,000 on anything right now. We've got to keep every dollar, in-house that we can, and we need to be finding ways to raise money. And while I was the first one to say we've got to go out and rebrand this stuff, I think there are ways to do that with people that we're already partnering with. That is going to be better than spending that money. Of course, that's not a decision. It's not a Cameron decision. That's a board decision. You guys would have to vote on that. It's not my money to spend, but I'm telling you that coming from a person who has made a lot of independent stuff, if NECAT as a whole is, if we're all about taking our members, and using that, I think we reach out to the members and say, hey, who wants to help design this stuff? Put that together, because I think we could do it in-house. And, it may not be as good. It may not be exactly that, from the jump, but I feel like we give someone a start and we get it donated to us as opposed to spending any money. And totally understanding people do need to earn an income. I understand why they charge it. We just can't afford it.
So
we might also want to talk to Brian Rossman about that as well. I mean, I know we've had some conversations with him about our website and that kind of thing, but I'd like to get his thoughts on all of that, and then also if he has capacity to help us with some of that.
Yeah.
The National Tech Council does it's called a Hack for Good, and they donate tech people to do something just like this. It's a grant you apply for, and then you get X amount of dollars in work from these developers. So it might be an excellent thing. They are really good at creating new websites. If you have the content that you want to move to them, they don't create content, but they'll build a website. I've got to roll off. I have a 12:30. This is my last board meeting. It's been a pleasure to serve NECAT in the city of Nashville. It's been a ride. Tyler, I think you and I, we're the longest serving right now. It's been interesting. I've stayed on to kind of offer my historical background, and where I think a lot of this stuff, again, is putting cart before horse. And I think the fundamental problem for NECAT has always been, what is the horse that drives the organization? And when we lost the funding from the mayor for the program that we created, we saw that we really weren't financially set up to be an organization. We are still working on our way out of that. I commend all of your hard work, and Cam, especially you're going at it gangbusters. And I appreciate everything that you're trying. I am happy to, I've kind of given my, feedback and readout of the 3.5, 4 years that I've been on the board to Mary Falls at the mayor's office and Durban and a couple other conversations. I'm happy to come back and talk to the board. We've done a lot of work trying to understand what NECAT is, the role of this very unique board. There's not another committee and again, we are a approved committee of the city, but we're unique in how we're structured and what we do, and the organization that we represent. Happy to come back and talk about any of that or answer any questions going forward. And I wish you guys the best of luck. And I hope NECAT can figure out a model that sustains it and it can continue to be a part of the community.
Joe, we appreciate your service and just being a part of the board and offering your expertise. I know before I got here, there were times where I know some people perceived you as the dissenting voice. I have always appreciated the candor that you have given, and just the sheer fact that you're able to, you're not always pie in the sky about everything. You're a realist, and I think we need that. And I appreciate you being here to give that voice of reason to us all. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate your service.
Thanks, guys. I'm going to roll off.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Tyler, thank you for your service too, sir.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Let me know if I can help in any way.
Okay.
Bye, Joe. In the Yes, go big
I
fella.
just sent you and Cam. I just forwarded because I figured one of y'all can get it to everybody easier than me trying to figure it out. So I just forwarded you the email I got from them yesterday with kind of the follow up, and I got it late and I didn't send it out because I was trying to figure out how to send it to everybody. And so I just sent it to you guys, and if y'all can forward it over everybody, it's kind of like follow-ups from 77.
Okay.
It's got everything in it that, and if there's any questions, and we can start pulling together the stuff that they're asking for in here. And I really have a feeling that this is a pro bono thing. I mean, that's an actual specific conversation. But yeah, I think that they are into doing this for doing it, but we'll find out.
Okay. No, to Cam's point, it's like, I think if we can enact both the Amazon pitch deck, with your show, and also approach whatever potential sponsors with the sponsorship deck that Dana helped put together, there is a path forward. I think, the biggest thing is to bridge between now and whenever the studio is open. I think, as Rachel had mentioned, if we get the PPP, if we get the additional PRED grant money, you're looking at, a runway through the summer now, and that's without anything else. Finding out what happens with the send, getting the stuff done with Feel Good Fridays. I mean, I think you'll have some more opportunity, but I think the big play is going to be, can you find someone to sponsor your show, big fella, and can we also get some additional channel sponsorships? I think that's got to be the number one goals for you guys in the next couple months. If we can get rebranding in that by that time, great. If it comes after that, probably better, because you'll probably have a little bit more wiggle room for new web design, new, maybe you can add a little splash of logos or whatever. But I think that's, the number one thing you guys should be looking at is like, getting a sponsor for your show and finding some channel sponsorships. I will also say that there's also, in addition to what Joe volunteered, I'm volunteering myself. If you guys want to put together some external advisory board, I know former chair Mark Rowan, former chair Joel Sullivan. There's a lot of fans of NECAT out there from people who have previously served, who are either in government or are still like floating around, that would love to like see NECAT succeed. You just have to tap into us and whatever else you want. There are people out there who definitely help. And I will say that the same thing. I think that there is a lot of opportunity if we can bridge this gap. If you can bridge the gap to when the studio opens and some additional funding comes in, I think NECAT has nothing but good things in front of it. So, I would challenge you all just to like focus on that in the next couple months. I do also want to again this has been 6 years for me, 2 full 3-year terms. It wouldn't have been possible without Cam stepping up after Trish has left. I mean, we would have been left by the side of the road as a board and as an organization. I think, the PEG Studios could have continued, but I don't think NECAT could have continued without it. So I want to thank everybody for what they do every day and encourage people to do even more in these next coming months to get this thing. 42 years of existence is a long time for the channels, and I really do think that it has a way forward if you can just get through these very dark times. So I'll leave it with that. If you guys have any other outstanding business before we close, but anything from anybody?
Thank you, Tyler, for all your leadership. 6 years. Wow. Just thank you for everything you've done. And I was only on the tail end of it, but you've been a great leader, and really appreciate you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Yeah.
I'll echo that. I think, I've been here now almost a year and a half. Tyler has called me, I think, just about every week since this started, just to check on me for not only the business side of it, just to make sure that my psyche was good and that we were moving in a way that wasn't making me crash and burn as a human being. And I will always appreciate that. So your expertise has been really special to me. I think you've got the long inside of it. And I have no doubt I'll be calling you in the future and saying like, hey, I need you to tell me what you think of this and to get you to come volunteer for some of our different stuff that we do in the future. We don't want to lose you on site because it's too important to have your lifeblood in the system. So thank you.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm not going,
Thank you,
I'm
Tyler, for
here.
everything.
You're welcome. Yeah,
I
I'm
think you should be
here.
the new chair of our advisory board. I think the immediate past president of this
Yes.
board automatically becomes the chair of the advisory board. So
There
you're
you
not
go.
going far.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Now you are on record now. You have been incredible.
Yeah, I wanted to get it on the record in the minute, so if we have plans for Tyler. He's not going anywhere.
You have been incredible, and you have been like the center to keep this going this year. I joined the board and 2 months later, Trish was gone, and you kept us going. And you have been a force to keep us together and to keep moving forward. And you've been steady and being calm. And I am grateful for you to have me be part of this group and to think that I can lead this board.
You're gonna do great.
Oh, I hope so.
I like that. I think
It's a big, it's a couple of big shoes to fill, and I'll do my best to lead everybody, not only the board, but to have a great future for NECAT and for the NECAT members. And I know I have a great team, and that you all are very talented, all of you in your own field, and that you all have a lot to offer to this board and to the community. And ahead of time, I want to thank you. And I'm getting emotional. I don't know why. I want to thank you ahead of time for letting me be part of this journey.
You got this, Shayla. You got this. You do.
All right. Well, unless there's anything else, guys, I just want to thank you again. And like I said, I don't roll off till February 5th, but again, I'm still going to be around, and whatever you need from me, I'm here.
Thank you, Tyler.
All right, guys. Well, with that, I'm stopping the recording. This meeting is officially adjourned, and we'll see you down the road.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you, Tyler.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.